10, 9, 8.
You're watching Experience Comic Culture and Sales. Streaming live daily to Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, and Twitter.
2, 1.
Bah humbug. I really thought that would get a bigger rise out of the people in the background. The fact that I changed my name to Ebenezer Kyle. And I'm going to express my distaste for this entire season. Mainly because nobody ever knows what to get me as a gift. Like, they don't... I'm a hard person apparently to shop for. Because I'm a grown-up who makes his own money and just, like, buys the stuff he wants and needs. So, like, come the holidays, people are like, what do we get you for Christmas? I'm like, cash. People are like, what do we get you for Christmas? We want to have something to wrap you under the tree. Wrap and put under the tree. I go put cash in a box and put it under the tree. Like, if you're going to buy a nerd a Christmas present, that's what we're talking about today, right? Today's our holiday gift guide, Devil's Advocate's holiday gift guide. Just give them cash. The last thing you want is to buy someone a present that they don't like because their fandom is so specific and you don't understand it, right? Or your fandom is so specific that they've already bought all of the stuff. So just give them cash. Thank you for coming to my TED Talk. Give me all your cash.
No, nothing for you because I'm the Bronze Age Grinch.
Unless it also delete my cash, but that's a different thing.
Yes, I will come to your house and take all of your comic books. That's what I'm going to do.
No, if I die, somebody delete my cash.
That's true. You don't want to be seeing that.
Yeah, no.
You should just set a dead man switch. If you don't reset it every 7 days, it just automatically deletes everything.
You should have, Jay, and it's true. You do need to do that. All right. Welcome in the internet. This is Devil's Advocates. I am Ebenezer Kyle, and that is the Bronze Age Grinch. But I don't know, Bronze. Do you know about that guy?
I don't think I could see it well enough to really make out what that is.
That's the Grinch.
Oh, okay. So it's like just the face. All right.
Yeah.
You're very small on my screen right now because of my setup. So
yeah, no. Yeah, I have the Grinch tattoo.
Nice, dude.
So if you haven't figured out, Kyle does not like Christmas.
Well, guess what?
I don't really care for holidays. I like holidays where I can blow stuff up. So 4th of July, Thanksgiving. Those are really it. Opening day of baseball season.
Thanksgiving. What are you blowing up on Thanksgiving? Deep fried turkeys?
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean,
yeah. It's so for me, I'm from the country, so we blow things up on every holiday. Usually for Christmas, you're getting something to blow something up with. If you've done it right, if you've been a good boy or girl.
I'm relatively sure this year for Christmas I'm getting socks, gauze, medical tape, things like that.
Sweet.
Yeah. All right, so we're here to do our gift giving guide, the guide to gifts you should give to the nerdy people in your life or some such.
Yeah, and I think it's, this is one of those things where there might be people watching because maybe you found this on the algorithm because you're looking for gifts for comic book people. Kyle and I both have a lot of experience reading and collecting comic books. We're here to help kind of give you some good suggestions and talk you through the gifts that aren't so good that your comic book fan in your life is going to think is cool. And we're here to tell you the thing that they're going to think is like the sparkliest, shiniest, brand new Nintendo that they ever saw in the world of comic books, or at least how to navigate that. This is a problem in my life. So this is where I approach this angle. there are people in my life that love me, they care about me, and I'm very fortunate enough that we want to get each other presents for Christmas, and we're able to do so. And yeah, unfortunately, when I say, well, I love comic books, or I love X-Men, or I could say, like, I love these specific issues of X-Men I don't have yet. Most people in my life are going to be too intimidated by that to really do anything meaningful in that regard. I think that's true for a lot of comic book fans. Maybe you're fortunate enough that you have, you know, a brother in arms or something like that is right there with you in the comic book collecting world, and they know exactly what to look for. But even if I said, hey, go buy a 4.5 copy of X-Men 50 or something like that, that would still be too daunting, even though that kind of narrows down all the condition and should give them a price range and all that stuff. That's still going to be too daunting. And plus, they don't know what to look out for as far as whether or not this is a legit transaction or whether or not it's a good seller online, all those things, right? So we get it. It can be stressful, but you still want to get somebody something they love. And that's where I think we can help out. So that's the idea of the show tonight.
The simple takeaway is what I said in the cold open, right? If you have a nerd in your life and you are feeling daunted by buying them a present, don't. Hand them green paper money.
I'll make sure he doesn't ignore you. Don't worry. We pay attention to our chat.
Hand them green paper money. And if you can't do that, I have some suggestions on my list of things you can get for them.
Yeah.
That are the same as handing them green paper money, but isn't just be like, here's $50. Happy Christmas.
Well, and I went a step further. So look, I don't think most people are going to complain about that, but gift card giving has become pretty normal for a lot of people for Christmas. Absolutely no shame if that's the way your family or your friends do it. That's great. For people there are people out there that do not want to do that. They think it's impersonal or whatever. They want to go above and beyond or take it a step further. And I think this is going to be kind of a guide to take you to that. And the way I set it out, pretty much at any budget, I think you're going to be able to find, you know, any reasonable budget. But here's another one. Secret Santa, you know, you did it at the office and you drew the person who says all they like is Avengers or something like that. You know, we're going to take care of you so you don't get them something they already have, hopefully.
Right.
Be able to figure that out. So
and you said it there, right? Is there people who don't want to do gift cards?
Yeah.
There are people who don't want to do cash, and I get that. But again, the way I put my list together is starting with the safest and working your way to the least safe.
Okay.
So the safest thing you could obviously give anybody is cash.
Yeah.
Right.
Sure.
And then you work your way to the least safe, the thing that is most likely for you to screw up. And that's kind of how I did this. And then again, I have flip sides of what you could be buying in this situation that doesn't work.
Yeah.
And so
cool. I like that.
I mean, do you want to just start ripping into the lists, or should we?
Yeah. So one thing I'm actually going to do, and for the viewers at home, just to give you an insight, sorry, the show started a few minutes late. I do not live close to town, and I got stuck doing something in town that I was racing back here. So what I'm going to do right now is go to our Slack, and I'm going to paste in my list because it has some links. If we want to bring up anything, we can. But the first thing I'll talk about is it's seemingly boring, and I get that. But I guarantee you that comic book fans in your life are always in need of supplies. They've either done one of two things. Either they're constantly behind on supplies and they got stacks of stuff that need to be rebagged and reboarded, or they're you know, not in a proper box because they're trying to figure out how to make space in their boxes, or they're like a doomsday prepper and they've got thousands of bags and boards and hundreds of boxes and stuff like that lying around. Most comic book fans I talk to generally fall into the first camp, where they're a little behind on their supplies, and it may not sound sexy. You know, this isn't the Clark going into the lingerie store and buying, you know, some seamless panties for his wife or whatever. But you're right. What was her name?
For nerds, this is just as sexy. Let's be real.
Yeah, exactly. This would be like getting those staples that every collector needs in their collection. Hey, what's up, GT Comic? Glad to see you here. Always a great member of the community. We love seeing you. So yeah, we're talking supplies. And the first supply I'll talk about I'm going to specifically call out their graded comic book bins because I personally use them. You can very vaguely see some back here. I know it's extremely hard to do that. But they're BCW comic book bins. And there are other great options for graded comic books if somebody doesn't prefer the plastic bins. I know E. Gerber makes a really good graded comic book box, for example, that's just a regular, white cardboard box you're used to seeing. But these are a nice upgrade in some ways because they are completely square inside, or rectangular, I should say. But that means that there's no flaps that get in the way or hold you from putting the comic books in there. They have a nice sealable lid. It's kind of a barn door style lid that shuts. And then it has a couple tabs that lock into place more or less. And then they're stackable. They're easily stackable. Or they'll fit on like those Metro racks or things like that pretty easily. And that is actually the bonus tip. I didn't put something on here, but if you have somebody in your life that reads comic books and they're complaining about moving comic book boxes around, those not a cheap one, but like a middle of the road one, a good one that has a good weight capacity on it. Those Metro racks can be a good way for them to kind of put their short boxes into something that'll get it off the ground. But we're talking about the bin part. And the bin part, I think, is something that these are kind of expensive. They generally, depending on if you buy in bulk or get a discount, sometimes you can find them on third-party sites like an Amazon.com, and the price can really vary there. But if you just go straight to the source and buy from BCW, which is the brand, these are usually about $45 a piece. So they're not cheap. And that's for the graded one. You can get the regular comic book box cheaper. If they don't grade comic books, they still might enjoy the other one.
Right.
I think these are awesome, though.
So Bronze clearly didn't read my list.
Oh, you pasted it in?
Yeah, it's been in Slack since.
I apologize, brother. I did not see that. I'm sorry.
So fourth on my list are BCW supplies. But the three things that I'm promoting this year is I hate BCW slab bins.
Oh, there you go.
Because when you get them full of slabs, they tend to come apart.
If you got to do one less than it seems like you should.
Yeah, if you fill them up, they fall apart.
Yeah,
I hate them. I much prefer their cardboard slab boxes. But
totally fair.
In regular boxes for regular raw ungraded in a bag and board comic, they have 3 now of the plastic short boxes, which I like those. I use those a lot.
Yeah.
This year they debuted the DC Blue and Marvel Red,
which is cool.
Right. Plus they have black that they've always had. But this year, for me, the big one that I am promoting, the big one that I'm throwing out there, and I don't have a fancy list to put in the chat, is their fold down boxes.
Yeah, that's like the fold over flap, right?
Well, but the whole box folds down.
Oh, okay. I know what you're talking about. I've seen those too.
It's that fold over flap, but they're fabric boxes with hard sides that when they're empty folds in on itself and lays flat.
Nice.
And then when you just pull the sides up and you close the top and it is a box. The reason I like this box in particular is that I do a lot of traveling. I could put that box in my car and only put that box up when I've got stuff to put in it. Right? I've got several of the hard case boxes, but it's that second one right there. On your screen there, Bronze. Right there, the comic book fold away.
Yeah, and
so this box
cool.
will absolutely fold flat. You could see it in the video a little better, but it folds down to that.
Yeah.
So it takes up no space. It's not crazy expensive for a reusable box. And I really like this box. I don't love the BCW hard side slab boxes because again, they fall apart in my opinion. But I like this because again, you use it when you need it and then you fold it away and you put it away. It doesn't take up any time.
Hey, Pop-Up Rap Art, how's it going?
Yeah, what's up, man? If you go back, like I said, the Marvel Red and the DC Blue box are on my list this year as well. I am slowly converting my short boxes over to those.
I'll open up the red one just because I think it's going to be easier to see on the screen, but there you go. And this is what so when it comes to the regular short boxes, that's what you're looking at here. That's also basically what the graded ones look like that I was talking about. They're just little different dimensions so that you can actually fit slabs in there. But yeah, they're really great. I mean, I can totally understand Kyle's point, and I've had that happen before. I always put one less graded comic book in there than technically would fit, and that prevents that issue for me. But that is kind of annoying because they don't hold maybe a ton. It works for me. I don't want long boxes, sized boxes anywhere because they are terrible to move, and I broke my back when I was a teenager. I'm not a guy with a good back, so I'm not going to do that.
So much of what I do involves going to conventions.
Yeah.
So if my boxes aren't holding together perfectly, then that's a problem for me.
100%.
So I tend to, what I actually like to do is buy the slab boxes and put a regular white short box inside them.
So you get the protection of the plastic, and then you get the best of both worlds there.
Yep.
Nice. Although they also look pretty clean too.
With the white short box inside them, you can cut out those tabs because you're not relying on them for any of the real structural protection that they give. It's just there to keep your books from moving. And then if your box falls apart, it keeps your books from flying out.
Nice. I like that.
All right. What's number 2 on the list?
Ooh, I like your list. I'm looking at it right now. Okay, so I'm gonna remove this real fast. So number 2 on my list.
Should we tackle the gift cards?
Yeah, why don't you go ahead and let's dive into that. I think that's a big one.
So gift cards are an interesting way to give cash without giving cash.
Yeah.
And they have several options. One important one, and I always did this as a store, and I know a lot of stores do it, are the local comic shop gift certificate or gift card or whatever. Miss Jen has these poker chips that you buy, and they're $25 gift cards, but they're essentially poker chips.
They look like a poker chip?
Yeah.
That is awesome.
I know.
I like that.
I had to buy one, and I'm never going to spend it. It's just going to live here.
Yeah, that's like taking a poker chip away from a casino just to have a memento, right?
Right, exactly. So the deal with the local comic shop gift card, and this is what's important, is there are a lot of local comic shops right now that are struggling. And so you're supporting a local comic shop. You're giving them a cash influx now in exchange for a product outflux later. Right? So they're getting the money up front when you buy a gift card, and your friend or you or whoever can go in later and spend that gift card. I had customers who at Christmas time would come into my shop every year and buy $500 worth of gift cards. And that's just what they would use to buy their pull list until they ran out. Right? Because they knew that the money mattered to me more now than the product would matter later. So just remember that local comic shops right now are fighting it and struggling, and this is an expensive time of year. So going in and buying a gift card from a local comic shop is always going to be a good sort of way to help a comic shop and to make sure that your friend or yourself are getting crap that they like. I can't tell you how often I would send my mom or my grandmother or whatever to the comic shop to buy me presents when I was young, and they would get the wrong stuff. Hey, I want the Sandman trade. Well, they go in and they say, we're looking for the Sandman book. And they would come back with like Golden Age Sandman and not Neil Gaiman Sandman.
Yeah.
Stuff like that. Where it's, right. Oh, I'm so sad. But stuff like that where they just don't know enough to really support my habit that way. So it made a lot of sense for me to say, you know what, just get a gift certificate to the local comic shop and I'll go in and pick up the thing. What's up, Kenneth? The other one that's on my list, and I hate being this guy, but I'm gonna, are Amazon/Kindle gift cards.
Mm-hmm.
And here's why. Comixology is dead. Long live Comixology. The last day Comixology existed was last week. All of the digital graphic novels and comic books are being moved into that Kindle shop. I want you to go to your local comic shop and buy comic books.
Yep.
First and foremost, always. But you're not going to take a 600-page omnibus on an airplane. Doesn't make sense. you're not gonna, it's not convenient to travel with big, thick trade paperbacks or even thin trade paperbacks. It's not, you don't want to take a trade paperback to the doctor's office necessarily.
On the bus
Right.
Yeah.
So having that Kindle app allows you to buy trade paperbacks, buy graphic novels, and have them on your phone, on a tablet, whatever, something that's more portable that's going with you anywhere.
Yep.
Anyway. And so while I think that's a distant second to going to a local comic shop and buying a gift card, giving the people in your life the ability to consume comics when and where they are is a huge bonus. So again, even if especially if it's like that coworker that you don't know that well and they're like, "Oh, I like graphic novels." Well, that could mean a lot of stuff. That could mean manga, it could mean comics, it could mean anything. So giving them that gift card for, again, Amazon or for your local comic shop lets them go in and get the graphic novel they want without you having to risk getting them something they already have or that they won't like. And at the same time, it lets them choose in which way they consume it. So that's why I think gift cards, at least in these two very particular instances, are good options.
And I would, just to echo what Kyle was going to say, like, so when he brought up the cash thing earlier, I knew it was going to come back up. And I apologize, I didn't see your list earlier. Never got the notification, but I 100% agree, especially the LCS gift card. Like, that's better than cash as far as the comic book person is involved in some ways. Like, yeah, sure, of course, you can spend that cash wherever. I mean, we all know that. But if you have that LCS gift card, you're telling them, hey, I knew you wanted to spend it on comic books. I knew this was your comic book shop or a good comic book shop or whatever. And it's helping that comic book shop. So it's kind of a win-win-win.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the Amazon, that's totally good. That's actually going to come up later when I talk about one of my gift recommendations for very much the same reasons. So really cool recommendations, man.
Yep. All right. What's your next thing?
So I'm going to go right back to comic book supplies. I'm just going to bring it right up this time. This is, Kyle was saying he loves the foldaway box from BCW. I'm actually going to check those out now. By the way, you know what? Actually, I should ask this. They say they stack 3 high. When you stack those 3 high,
I only have 1 right now.
Okay. That would be my main question.
Let me let you know when. So this is something else that should be brought up and mentioned at least. Your boy does all his own Christmas shopping, and then gives that to the people who give me gifts, and then they just give me the money.
Right.
So
That's
I bought 6 of those foldaways, and my mom is giving me 2, my grandma's giving me 2, my sister's giving me 2. So it's this idea of like, I don't have them yet, but I know I'm getting them.
For sure. I hear you. When you get 3 of them stacked, I want to know how stable they feel on that bottom one, especially. So this is my favorite comic book box. And it's not all going to be boxes. Don't worry. And there's been a lot of box talk here. But again, it's not the sexiest thing maybe from the outside looking in, but trust me, people like these. They need them.
Is that a short box or is that a half box?
So this is a short box, and they also make a long one.
Are you
this
sure?
Is from, yeah.
Oh, it's Gemini. Okay.
Yeah. This is the Gemini comic supply. They're called thick grip short boxes. And I want to very carefully say this because they are in no way a sponsor. I am an affiliate with Gemini, but I became an affiliate because I love these boxes and I wanted to talk about them. So I'm just going to throw that out there. Take that as a disclaimer if you want. I, for 30 years of comic book collecting, bought whatever my LCS had for a short box or a long box. I used to buy long boxes, and I quickly decided not to do that. So when I started transitioning over to short boxes, I'm going to show up the picture here that kind of, there we go, that does a really good job of explaining. Any comic book fans can understand there's no flap on the inside here that is preventing the comic books from being flush up against the wall of the comic, which can cause comic books to bend and can cause spine stresses. That tab, that gap is really minimal, you see there. And do they show the middle of the box? Well, because in the middle of the bottom of the box, there's also no gap. It's all one solid floor. I would say that they need better pictures to display that, but it is really solid. And here's the other good part about these. When they say thick grip, that cardboard handle is 3 times stronger, I would say, than your standard traditional construction short box. So, one reason I'd recommend these is actually for dealers, for vendors that go to shows, that kind of stuff, because a huge problem you see with vendors is you'll see this all the time, even at some LCSs, duct tape around the handles to reinforce it where it's wanted to rip or ripped, where they've added some cardboard, put some duct tape around that. These are super strong. They stack a lot more sturdy because the way it goes, the lid is thicker. And so when you're sitting a box on top of another box, they are locked in. Like there's no sag that you start to see on the short box lid or the long box lid after it's been there for a year, not being moved, even if it's full of comic books. They are rock solid. Look, if you want to, you can use the code Bronze10, save yourself 10% over there. That would help me out, but I trust me, I don't make much off of it.
And just as a reminder, just something to point out, and it's why I asked this question earlier. When you see the thick grip boxes, buy the Gemini brand.
Yes.
Because there are other companies that make thick grip boxes, but they're not short boxes. They're half boxes.
Yes.
Which is a different size. Like there are really 4 size comic book boxes.
Yeah.
Most people just think anything that's not a long box is a short box. Anything that is a long box is a long box. But there's actually a half box, which is half of a long box, whereas a short box is a little more than half of a long box.
Yep.
And then there are double boxes, which is actually longer than a long box, which would be 2 short boxes. And all of this is to say that supplies can get really tricky. So when you're buying supplies, I always recommend buy the name brand.
Yeah.
So Gemini, BCW, I've had good luck with Ultra Pro stuff in the past, bags and boards and other things. But buy name brand. Don't just buy Steve's Comic Supplies.
Yeah.
Short boxes or half boxes or double thick boxes or any of that kind of stuff, because you really don't know what product you're getting. It's a lot like when you're buying soda pop. Right? If you buy Coke or Pepsi, it's going to be the same no matter where you go. When you start getting into some of those weird other brands, it really does vary.
What is this? RC Cola?
Right. What is this? Dr. Thunder? Like,
Dr. Thunder's so good.
I understand, but it ain't Dr. Pepper.
No, if you're looking for a Dr. Pepper, you're gonna be like, this isn't exactly it.
Right.
Yeah, and
that's with comic supplies, I always equate it to soda. Right?
Oh,
Buy the name brand.
I don't disagree, Jay.
RC Cola is the 4th tier pop, okay?
Well, it's kind of like no such thing as bad pizza or bad the other thing. It's still good.
Disagree.
That's fair.
You could have pineapple on your pizza. That's a bad pizza.
Love pineapple on pizza. But it's one of those things where, again, I kind of have to beat people over the head with this a little bit because it sounds like I'm pimping these things. I seriously have bought comic book boxes for decades and just been like, that's a comic book box. All right. That's the standard construction I'm used to. Occasionally you notice that one's maybe a little thinner than the other, that kind of thing. It's not a huge difference. I got these and I was like, oh my, these are completely over-engineered compared to what I'm used to seeing. And I absolutely loved it. And I'm curious to try the ones that Kyle recommended too.
And it's why, I'll be honest, it's why I haven't shipped all of this stuff out from the Mission 22 charity auction. I have comic book mailers. They're not Gemini mailers.
Yeah.
And I'm not taking a chance.
Yep. No offense to Uline or something. They make some decent supplies for other things, but you don't want to trust valuable books and that stuff, especially. Right. Oh, and there's one other thing I'll mention about these Gemini boxes. The dimensions internally are nice because one thing I like to do, and it'll come up a little bit later, I like to use, like if I'm buying from eGerber or Comic Pro Line, if I'm buying their slightly, how to put this the right way, if you buy the modern or current bags and boards, they tend to be a little on the thin side for what I prefer, and that's a whole different discussion. And we'll get into it a tiny bit. I tend to prefer full, they're called regular or silver, for example, if you buy them from Comic Pro Line. And that for a modern comic book or even like a Copper Age, even going back in a Bronze Age in some cases, is good to get enough board around the edge and not have the book in there too snugly to where I think it's going to damage it. But the problem is a lot of boxes that you go to buy are then so narrow that the sides are kind of scraping if you go to, flip through books. These are just ever so slightly wider internally and externally as a factor of that. And so you just glide through them. You can actually store some surprisingly larger stuff in here. Like you can store Silver Age books in there. I wouldn't, but you could, because then you run into that same problem when they're still a little snug on the sides. But I think they're great all around, worth trying out. And they make it big.
I don't mind the scraping on the Gemini boxes because I know it's not because the box is bowing in.
Right. That's another factor too.
I don't mind it. With other boxes, you get the sides bow in, and then you get that scrape and you're actually hurting your books. Whereas the Geminis don't do that. So if there is a scrape, it's just because your bag and board is the same width or whatever. It is the exact width. And I think Bron's going to get into it, but that's something that, again, with the Gemini, super important. I always size up. So my modern and current books are all in silver bags and boards. Yep. My silvers are all in gold bags and boards. My gold are all in magazine size bags. Like I always size up because, especially with my Golden Age stuff, some of it's so fragile to take it out of a properly sized bag would actually do more damage than putting it in a bigger bag and just kind of letting it live.
Yep.
So, all right.
By the way, Jay has this comment, was so excited to get the long boxes that pull out like a filing cabinet. Now, before I even finish your comment, there is 2 popular brands that do that. BCW is one of them. There's also, I think it's Comic Book Drawer Boxes, I believe is actually their name. I might be mistaken.
That's what BCW calls them too, comic drawer boxes.
Right. Well, there's
right.
There's a brand comic book houses.
That. Right.
They have a house and then it's a drawer system, but there's actually, there's a brand. The brand that I cannot remember the name of right now is a little higher quality. I hate to say it, no offense, BCW, but they just did it a little bit better. But you're right, they're still a pain in the butt. Here's what actually works, and it's what's sitting right next to me right here: a legal-sized filing cabinet.
So what I have done with long boxes, like I have the BCW version of the pull-out boxes at home.
I do too, upstairs.
What I've done is it's not a Metro shelf, but it's like the shelves you talked about. They're warehouse shelves.
Mm-hmm.
And each one lives on those. Instead of stacking them, I've got 4 of them on each shelf, and they still pull out really nice because they have the support of the box of the shelves.
Frogwell, I'm really curious. Yeah, I heard you mention that one other time. He says that he's building a custom shelf to slide those out like a drawer. I've seen some really cool implementations of that, and I'm jealous of people that have shops where they can, perfect that system. I'm excited to see what you come up with, man.
Frog Brawler, when you get it done, throw the pictures in the Discord.
Please do, man.
Because your boy, I would be very interested in seeing that because that actually leads to my next item.
Let's do it.
Swedish home furnishings.
Oh, yeah.
If you have to store comics, the Swedish furniture store has 2 things whose name you can pronounce: Billy the Bookshelf and Alex the Drawers. Everything else is called with vowels in the wrong place and stuff. But essentially, you have to store your books somewhere, right? And so IKEA makes a great little product called Billy the Bookshelf that hold up really well to the weight of trade paperbacks and hardcovers. Are they the nicest? No. Do they do the job incredibly well for the price that you pay for them? Absolutely.
They also give you a sweet excuse to go get some meatballs.
And by the way, during the holidays, the Swedish furniture store is selling a 10-pound Swedish meatball that's the size of a small chicken.
That seems like a big chicken to me.
In terms of its size.
Oh,
like
it's actual dimensions. I got you.
Right, but like
That's a small turkey.
right.
I got
Anyway,
no, those are
the
great.
deal with Billy the Bookcase, right? And this is, I actually don't have Billy the Bookcase anymore. I have a different product that is square and it has square shelves in it.
Yeah,
that are actually the size of a short box. They're a little bit bigger than a short box, so they work really they work really nicely for that.
That furniture store also makes those that fit that too.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So, like I said, Swedish home furnishing. You have to store your books somewhere. Why not store them someplace that you can't pronounce the name of?
Yeah. No, they're great, especially for people who have like lots of trade paperbacks and even figures and stuff too. Those go on there really well.
Right. The reason I recommend those, and maybe not something like we were talking Metro shelves earlier, the stuff I use, is that these look like they belong in a proper person's house.
Yeah. No, you're
they're
not wrong.
Finished. My stuff in my house is like, so did the factory just throw up in your upstairs? What is happening here? So again, this is a little more, places people are going to be, you want to put your books up on a shelf, yada, yada. In my business partner's house, she has 4 Billy the Bookshelves that are all comic books, and she has categorized them. She has her DC Billy, her Marvel Billy, her independent Billy, and then her Books Our Friends Made Billy the Bookshelf. And so it makes it easier for her to go hunt for stuff. But at the same time, it looks nice in her living room because it looks like she reads a lot. And as it turns out, she reads a lot of comics, but it sure looks like she's got a lot of books. So it works out really nicely.
Yeah, no, that's a great suggestion, man.
Okay, what's next?
So next one I'm going to talk about, and this is a specific product I have, and if you want, I can pull one down and show you a real one because they're right behind me right here. But there are other examples of this. I'm by no way saying that you have to get these. There's actually probably, I would say, 6 or 7 brands out there. I've personally interacted with these, and I think they're cool. What are they? They are a comic book case for your comic books that are in cases. And before you think that's a really, really weird thing to say, I kind of agree with you, and I was skeptical at first. But these are called encastables from Encased Comics, and they are protected frames. The coolest thing about them to me is that they actually are 98% UV protected, and unlike other products out there I've seen that offer UV protection, or they claim to have UV protection, I got in touch with the person who made these and that, kind of designed them, and then sent them off for development at a factory and got the testing back. And I've seen the UV testing on these. They shared that with me. And I saw, the video of it being tested, and then it coming back as 98% UV protected. Now, if you aren't aware, when people get these comic books slabbed, a lot of people, including me, especially depending on the value of it, may display them on walls or out on like a stand or an easel or something like that. And that is fine depending on the comic book, but you should know that those are not inherently UV protected. They offer a very, very tiny amount of UV refraction just by the fact that you're putting something between it and the light, even if it is mostly clear, but it generally is not UV protected. So if you have a nicer book, especially one that is higher value, or an older vintage book that you don't want to yellow, but you still want to be able to display it, these are a really cool way to do it. What I like about these, beyond the fact that that's the UV protection they're offering, is that they also have a really that you can kind of see it on the bottom, that whole slide out there. So these are super easy to put in and out. I've seen these kinds of things before where they're really finicky and you got to take apart and unscrew stuff. These, there's a magnet, like a strong, rare earth magnet or whatever on the bottom there that connects. You pull a little bit and it comes loose. And then you slide out that bottom tab and you just insert your new book, slide in on a track. It's all just on one track. And it's really slick. You can switch them in and out easier. And it also has, at the top there, you can kind of see it, a built-in picture hanging, a piece of acrylic that's nice and strong. You could display these on an easel still. They're also extremely clear. So one thing you might worry about is, I'm putting plastic on top of plastic. Like, is that going to be is it going to make it harder to see the book? These were, I won't say crystal clear because the CGC slab itself is not crystal clear, but I didn't see any visual difference between displaying this and displaying like a CGC slab or a CBCS slab, for example. They're a little on the expensive side, but that's why I think it makes a good Christmas gift, because some people may not want to buy these because they're looking at it, they're going, it's kind of expensive. But especially if you're going to do like a few of them, somebody wants to display them. And here's the other thing, that picture hanging thing makes it so easy to hang these. I've had other solutions for hanging comic book slabs that are either rinky dink and not very secure, or they're going to require like a full like stud, or a drywall anchor or something like that. This, you can hang a lot of different kind of 3M, make some good solutions for hanging picture tabs. These comics, they don't weigh very much even inside this plastic. So I like these. I've got a couple. They've been lasting great. They're not getting all scratched up or anything. Frog Barreler says these things are awesome. The biggest complaint with slabs has always been the lack of UV. This also solves the wall mounting problem concurrently. Yeah, these are nice. Again, there's other brands out there. Some of them I'm sure are fine. These just happen to be the ones I have experience with. And we put the link in the chat for those if you're interested in those too. And I was sent these for free, but I'm in no way affiliated with these guys. If you buy something from them, it's not like I get a kickback or anything like that. So go check them out or check out another solution. I think Red Wolf Collectibles is also doing one like this too. And there's a couple other brands out there, so check them out. You have any experience with stuff like that? I mean, you probably don't display any of your slabs, I assume, Kyle, or do you?
I do, but I have them framed. Like I take them and have them professionally framed and mounted. I don't display many slabs. One of the things that I've taken to doing, rather than slabbing or displaying slabs, is having other things that I display, original art, CC, commission covers, that kind of stuff that I hang that I care less. I don't want to say care less, that I care less about. In the fact of like these all are under UV glass already, right? So it's already protected pretty well. Right.
So really easy to switch in. I just wanted to show that real fast, and then
right. The few slabs I have graded are actually matted in such a way that you can't tell that they're slabbed. So
that's cool.
My thing has always been the art and not so much the grade. I could give, the people who come in my house could give a shit about the grades, right? They will talk about the art. Like we will talk about that cover, for an hour, but nobody's going to care if it's a 9.8 or if it's a 4. So who cares about the slab? Frame it up in a way that you like. And so again, I have all my stuff that is framed under UV glass.
Yeah. And that makes a lot of sense. I mean, I like the idea of kind of framing in a way that it's essentially like what is the matting? Like it's almost like a matting that covers all that. I like that idea.
You couldn't tell if my slab stuff was slabbed or a print.
Yeah. Probably the frame's a little thicker. That's probably about it. Right.
Right.
Yeah.
So my next thing,
more premium.
Yeah. My next thing is box sets. So box sets and big collected editions. And what I'm talking about here is there are a lot of very expensive, very cool hardcovers, box sets, and things that your collector friends don't always feel comfortable buying for themselves.
I like it.
It's funny. It's true. They do. But having, again, we talked about LCS gift cards, right?
Yeah.
Throwing in towards that or even buying them a box set is a great Christmas gift. My Christmas gift to myself this year was the new deluxe edition hardcover for Sandman that came with the helmet.
That is so cool.
Now, I don't expect regular people to go out and spend $600 on their friends or nerdy friends for holiday gifts, but having a $50 gift certificate to throw onto that would have made it $50 less.
Yeah.
Right. But at the same time, one of the things that was very popular in my store when I had my store was manga box sets.
Yeah.
And box sets for things like we would sell Batman box sets, right? Where it's The Killing Joke and
Dark Knight
Death in the
Returns or whatever.
Family and Dark Knight Returns or whatever. You know,
Yeah.
it was whatever box sets DC would put out. And those were always good because most of the time they come with one book and the other two are empty. The other two spots are empty. Or when you do a manga box set, it comes with one and you buy the other later. And the idea is it gives your person a reason to keep collecting those things. And it also kind of, again, limits that cost to them.
Yeah.
So some of these manga box sets are not cheap, but for $100, if you can get 10 volumes of the manga and introduce somebody to a new manga, that's a pretty reasonable investment. So
Absolutely.
Box sets and hardcovers are especially good gifts because the other thing that frequently happens is your collector or your comic shop regular will buy the trade paperback when it comes out. And if it's something they really like, buying them a hardcover gives them something that they can put on their shelf. Even if they don't read it, they can put it on the shelf and say, "Oh, you know what's really good? That one right there." I have all the trade paperbacks of Philadelphia, but I have the hardcovers because they look really dope on a shelf.
And everyone walks in, they're like, "Wow, is that a Billy bookshelf?"
Not in my house.
Sharp.
But yeah.
Yeah. Well, yeah. So I mean, this is a great suggestion. I love it. I'm just going to throw up the thing that I was talking about because it literally is this thing.
Mm-hmm.
And that is, this is an example. I think these are really cool. These are Penguin Random House Classics, the Marvel collection. And actually, some of these were sent to me as part of Heroes for Heroes for the charity auction by one of the donors. And just looking at like the Spider-Man one, the Black Panther here, Captain America. They also have an X-Men one. They have a Hulk one that are out now. They're $50. They're a premium format. They're not gigantic like the omnibus style ones are. These are a little bit more manageable, which I think some people an omnibus is maybe too hard to hold or read, or they got to set it down in a certain spot to read it if they don't want to hold it for too long. Some people don't care about that at all. But these are kind of a more manageable omnibus. So for example, the Spider-Man one has Amazing Fantasy 15, and then I believe it has the first 19 issues of Amazing Spider-Man. So you're getting that classic original goodness. They're gilded pages, which is kind of a nice touch. If you don't know what gilded is, it's kind of like that gold edge that you'll see to the pages. So it has kind of a premium feel to it. It doesn't have like a dust jacket that's going to get bent or torn, or you got to store separately. It's just got that kind of spot, not foil, but spot embossed gold to the front of it, which is really premium feeling as well. And it's a pretty high quality print on it on the inside. So look, this is Marvel. Maybe they're not a fan of these characters and you want to go DC, like Kyle's suggesting. This is sort of just like a placeholder for that. But I think these are really cool versions. And you can always go for the omnibus. You can always go for the trade paperbacks of something you know they like, and you can't really lose there.
Well, and in that same vein are the artisan editions that have been put out, which are, they're not necessarily stories, but they're art. They look like the original comic art that's been scanned in and printed on the page.
Yeah.
So you can look at some of this original art that you're never probably going to be able to own.
Yes. And yeah, those are really cool. There's also some, I wouldn't even call it prestige format, but I've seen some essentially like newsprint size. So they're like twice as tall as an omnibus, where you can see like the breakdowns of the characters and the designs and the pages before they were finished. Those are awesome. Yeah,
I collect the annotated editions too.
Yeah.
Like DC does annotated editions. So I've got annotated Watchmen, annotated Sandman, annotated several others I can't think of the top of my head right now. But where it has editor's notes and stuff in it too. So
which is really cool.
There are a lot of different ways to attack the box sets, hardcovers, sort of methodology.
And there's also the last specific recommendation I'll give, and I know it's a very popular one for people that are of my age, for example, if they happen to be a Marvel fan. There was a really cool Jim Lee art book that came out for his art on the X-Men, and it featured the art he did for one of the comic book card series that came out. That's probably still available in stores. It has Magneto on the cover. It's kind of got a teal background. The reason I'm mentioning those Penguin Random Houses and this is because they're new enough that I think you're going to still find those relatively easily at stores or places that books are sold, hopefully your local comic book shop. And I know that some of them can still be ordered from Penguin Random House in the case of those collections I was showing off. So maybe
and like,
yes.
This is a good week too, if you haven't been into comic shops lately, to go in and look at the hardcovers and trade paperbacks, because there are some interesting ones coming out this week, including a new Absolute Watchmen hardcover, including things like the hardcover of Gotham After Midnight, Conan the Barbarian hardcovers, Daredevil omnibuses. There's Fantastic Four, the Dan Slott Fantastic Four run omnibus, Chip Zdarsky Spider-Man hardcover. Like this is a good week because a lot of that stuff is hitting shops this week.
Right on.
Like a lot of the new releases or the yearly releases of bigger things that get re-released every year or two hit shops this week.
Cool.
All right. Do you have another thing, or should we go to my next thing?
Let's go to your next thing. I mean, I'm just going to basically piggyback off your things for the rest of the show, because I had some of those as kind of afterthoughts as well.
All right. So number 6 is gear, dress up. So the thing I put on my list is roosevelts.com, rsvlts.com.
That's how you say that? I always thought it was results.
Nope, Roosevelts.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
And so I will share the screen on that one there. So the deal with Roosevelts is that they make gear for people of odd sizes. But not just that, they make fandom specific gear. And it's hard sometimes to find gear out in the wild that suits your fandom in a way that you would be comfortable wearing to work, that you'd be comfortable wearing out on a date, that you'd be comfortable wearing someplace. So like you've got, your Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Ron Swanson, the Truffle Shuffle shirt, right? That's literally, it's got him on it right there. Star Wars. And so these are kind of dressy, but still nerdy. And the thing that's cool is they have men's, women's, and kids sizes, right? You can't always find your fandom in women's and kids sizes, right? So, all of this kind of stuff is super helpful in terms of gear. It's, like I said, not always easy to find, I'm trying to pick one. X-Men shirts in all the sizes, especially not in button-ups.
Right.
But you could wear this to work. You could wear this to a nice brunch. I would wear this just all the time.
I would wear that.
Please hold while I shop.
Now, have you made some purchases from them yet?
Uh-huh.
Okay. So quality is there and everything?
They don't have it in my size. No.
You hear that, Roosevelts? Come on, guys. Let's get it together. Us big guys need love too.
So I actually where to go? I have this shirt already. The Turf and Turf and the Ron Swanson shirt of greatness. For Christmas, I'm getting Duke Silver, and I'm getting the little Sebastian hat.
Right on. Aw, little Sebastian.
So, granted, those aren't comic books, but like, it's Parks and Rec.
They're nerd culture.
Right. So, again, but they have comic book stuff, and again, men's, women's, and kids. So, again, you come over here to kids, and they've got Star Wars. They've got Disney. They've got Bluey. They've got Minions. They've got stuff that kids are going to like and are, you're going to feel good. So I may or may not have gotten matching shirts for me and my 3-year-old nephew.
There you go.
Because we have dinosaur shirts and now we have matching Bluey shirts.
Oh, that's cool.
So like, again, gear, you can almost never go wrong buying somebody a nice shirt. But I would recommend buying, if you're going to buy them a nerd shirt, buy them something like from Roosevelt's that is unique to the brand you're buying. Because the likelihood of you buying them a generic Superman shirt and them already having a generic Superman shirt, pretty high.
Well, not only that too, but also the quality on, like for example, I've bought several nerdy shirts because I like to have some nerdy stuff to wear, generally speaking, on my channel and stuff. And I don't necessarily want to go out and buy the premium shirts for that because they're kind of just around the house shirts and they look nice on camera or whatever. Mm-hmm. The quality of those shirts often can be very, very, very poor though.
One-time wear, basically, because then they shrink.
Yeah, like once you start washing them, they start to, like, I here's the pro tip there: dry your stuff on delicates, folks.
Cold water and put it in the dryer. Just hang dry.
Or that hang dry, air dry. But yeah, it's one of those things where finding the quality is very important, and a premium shirt. These are also, they're just different too. They're not the same thing you see over and over again.
Right.
I like it.
All right. My next thing, themed household appliances. And here's what that is. Here's what that looks like. I don't know if you in your neighborhood have a Box Lunch or a store like that, or FYE or some of these places. But what you can do is you can get household appliances that match your fandom. So for Christmas last year, I brought my sister and brother-in-law a waffle maker where the waffles look like Mickey Mouse. Right? That fits their fandom. I have a R2-D2 popcorn maker. When you're talking about gifts, sometimes practical gift giving is important. You have a friend who's living on their own for the first time, or just moved into a new place, or just bought a house or whatever. My best friend just bought a house, so they need stuff for their house. Well, okay, they don't have a toaster. Well, let me buy them a toaster that burns the face of the Borg Collective on their toast.
I would hope it's the actual Borg cube, because if it was the Borg Collective, it would probably just look like burnt toast.
Yeah, but you know what I mean. It's let me buy them a waffle maker that makes the waffles look like Pokeballs.
Yeah.
Buying things that people need but still supporting their fandom is a cool way to do it. And so there are stores like Hot Box Lunch is one. They're owned by Hot Topic, same company owns Hot Topic. FYE has them. There are other places you can get them. You can obviously get them on the internet, but a big one a few years ago for my friend group was the silicone molds, ice molds that were nerdy that you could use to make, I don't know, Jello shots.
Death Stars and all kinds of stuff.
Right. And chocolates and whatever.
Yeah.
So again, some practical things that people need, but then supporting their fandom. Right. Can I find you the Cylon toaster, Pat?
Ooh, that'd be awesome.
I think I looked that up, and that one was made specifically for The Big Bang Theory.
If that thing's not called the frackin' toaster, I don't even know what we're doing with our lives.
Okay. They did make one. It's incredibly rare. On one side, it is a Cylon. On the other side, it says frack off.
I like it.
Yeah, they are crazy expensive.
I bet.
Yeah. Anyway.
That's like the best one.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. So, but like I said, getting these kind of household appliances and things that people can use, a big bonus. All right. Next thing. Do you have anything?
So
You need to
my
piggyback on here?
well, I don't really need to discuss any of the. I had some specific book suggestions, and I can do it in 10 seconds. It's kind of just some of my favorite graphic novels, and that's what I would recommend doing here. You can either go and get like a hardcover, and it's sort of what we talked about earlier, but I'll just say it real fast. Sandman, Neil Gaiman, Sandman. That is, unless they already have it, they are going to most likely enjoy it. I think it's one of the most universally loved if they actually sit down and read it. Not everybody does. It's not everybody's cup of tea, but I think it's a pretty safe suggestion. Watchmen, V for Vendetta, also both they're staples in most people's collection. But if they don't have it, that might be a good thing because it's a story that a lot of people want to go back and read multiple times. The other one, this one's the one that's out there. If you have a friend that is more on the adult side of the spectrum, or they want something that is kind of a little more rated M, hard R, that kind of thing. Saga by Brian K. Vaughan is also a good suggestion, but it features a lot of weird alien sex. So keep that in mind. Definitely not something you want to get just anybody, but I know sometimes people are looking for tailored suggestions, and I think that's a good one. And then another really topical one I'll just throw in there right now is Invincible, because the show's airing again. It's on a lot of people's minds, and that is a good superhero read. It does have a lot of violence in it too, so that's one that you're going to want to watch out for that. And there is some stuff later on in the series too that is not for all readers. But if you're talking for like an adult comic book fan that's mature to read that kind of stuff, absolutely, those are good suggestions.
Yeah, I have a kind of a weird rule. I don't give book recommendations for the holidays.
Yeah.
And the reason I don't is that I have to know who the book is going to, because it's a different recommendation, right? So I've made it my policy to, instead of saying these are my holiday book suggestions, is tell me about the person and let me recommend a book. And that comes from years of having to deal with retail, people coming into my store and going, so my grandson is 7 and he really likes The Walking Dead. Well, your grandson is a sociopath. Here's this book that will feed his sociopathism. And you hand him American Nightmare or something. Like,
I totally understand. I understand this because one of the things I used to do was I used to run a game store. I was a general manager at a game store, and it can be tough, but also this is the one area that I'm kind of willing to capitulate on, and that's like why I give such a short list. These are kind of my tops of all time, so to speak, that have not just for me, but I know they have a wide appeal. So you're more likely to hit on these. But yeah, this isn't blanket advice for anybody. Like you heard me give the qualifiers. That's a very good point.
Right. For me, it was always Superman Red Son, Spider-Man Clone Saga. And I would usually recommend, because a lot of times I was getting asked for kids.
Yeah, that's fair.
So Spider-Man Clone Saga is a grown-up Spider-Man book that's not so grown-up kids can't read it. So it would be Superman Red Son, Spider-Man Clone Saga, and I would usually recommend an indie, something like Pestilence from Aftershock, or something like Why the Last Man, or really anything by Brian K. Vaughan.
Yeah.
Or Brian.
Lock and Key is another really good suggestion too. For that list.
DMZ was a big recommendation for a couple of winners.
Yeah.
So,
here's kind of, so that I'll give you my bonus. Here's my bonus suggestion. So if they like a character, if they have any kind of nerd memorabilia around their house, what I would recommend is if you're thinking like, well, I want to get them something about that character, but I don't want to go buy them a comic book they don't want or they don't need, or I don't know what I'm getting into when I buy it, or it's just a nothing comic book. Good luck if they say they like Wolverine. You're like, well, I can go spend thousands of dollars on a Wolverine comic book, or I can spend a couple dollars on a Wolverine comic book that they might not care about at all, or they might just appreciate the gesture and not like the comic book. Or you could say, okay, they like Wolverine. And I know that they have one nerdy statue or figure in their house somewhere. Go start looking at memorabilia that's things they might like. And this goes along with Kyle's suggestion about like a toaster or whatever it is, the small appliances. A statue, a resin figure. When I say statue, some people think those things have to cost hundreds of dollars. They don't all have to. There's PVC ones that cost $40 to $80. There's minibus. There's all kinds of different form factors there. You could go action figures. That really depends. I think statues are kind of more universally accepted. But there's also things like my wife got me this with my daughter for Father's Day, and it's just an X-Men Thermos brand mug, right? Like, and it, it's not my favorite rendition of Cyclops, but it has Cyclops on the other side. That's my favorite character. So there you go.
Does having Cyclops on your cup make your drinks taste worse?
Well, it's weird. They all turn red. I don't understand. It's a weird thing that happens, but yeah.
And it's because the universe is trying to, retcon Cyclops out of existence. Anyway.
But the idea is, let's say you like you said maybe they're a big Sandman fan. They already have the Sandman books, but they're a giant Sandman fan. There's some really cool Sandman statues and stuff like that out there you can get, or you could go find a bookmark or a T-shirt or a magnet or all kinds of
when going into a shop to buy something for someone like this, think about the other things they already have. The question I always ask people when they come in and say they like Wolverine. Okay, when you see the Wolverines they have, what is Wolverine wearing? Because if they go, it's the blue and yellow outfit, then I know they like 90s cartoon Wolverine.
Yep.
Right? And that directs me to direct you. So, all right, number 8 on my list. Do I have to sell candy to y'all?
Not to me.
Here's why it makes the list. There are a lot of really cool candies out there that are specialty candies. So think Haichu, things like that you find a lot of times in comic book shops, in specialty collectible stores. So Haichu or X-Men themed candy, or does anybody remember the Pokemon gold candy? Like it was a gold Pokemon card that you peeled the foil off and it was chocolate bar. That kind of stuff. Like, think about some of the goofy, not really gifty type things. And what Jay mentioned here, I built Sean a Daredevil box for Christmas one year, shirt, hardcover, deck of cards, stuff like that. Volume. And that's why candy makes the list, right? You might not be able to buy them something specific that they're into, but you can buy them a lot of stuff that's close to what they're into.
Right. By
saying, okay, well, I'm going to go buy a bookmark and a pencil and some candy and a single comic book and a deck of playing cards and a bottle opener and, that kind of stuff that is innocuous gifts, but when added together, turn into something.
100%.
Let's see. Next on my list. Number 9. Physical media. We just found out that PlayStation is taking a bunch of stuff off of the PlayStation Store and not refunding people for purchased content they're taking away. Stop renting content from streaming services. Even if you buy it. If Prime Video goes away tomorrow and you bought a bunch of movies on Prime Video, they're gone. Right? Like, it's an unfortunate side effect of the reality of life right now. So physical media / media players. So one of the best Christmas gifts I ever got was about 10 years ago. I got a Laserdisc player.
That's pretty cool.
And do you know what I got? The Star Wars Laserdiscs.
That's very cool.
Right.
Because it's the non-edited version.
Well, it is, but then at the same time, I own this. This can never not be mine now.
And they can never change the disc to be a different version of the film that you're not necessarily interested in watching.
Right. And so I am still a big proponent of buy me DVDs and Blu-rays and, DVD players, Blu-ray players. At the same time, right now, really popular vinyl.
Yeah.
So I have a friend who hasn't commented, so I hope they're not watching, who I bought the original Daria soundtrack on vinyl. Well, Now that friend can own the original Daria soundtrack. Because if you watch Daria on streaming, it's different music.
Yeah.
So it's not even the same. So now he has the music, and I bought him a record player to go with it because he didn't own a record player. That wasn't wildly expensive. It was like $130 for the two things. Because I bought him a cheap record player. But it's something for him to listen to this record. So it's this idea of physical media, things that you can hold and be tangible.
100%.
All right. Last thing on my list. And then I have some honorable mentions. Are experiences. One of the popular gifts among my friend group and among my family it's become are experiences. Buy your friend a ticket to a thing. Be it movie tickets, be it concert tickets, be it convention passes, be it whatever. Pat, I did not buy you the stupid Daria soundtrack or a turntable, okay? It's not for you. If anything was for you, I'd buy you green body paint. That's a joke between Pat and I. Pat is very tall, and his nickname is Jolly Green because he's the Jolly Green Giant.
Nice save. I know what it's really for.
No, that's literally what it is. Also, I did buy him a T-shirt that says "Shut up, Pat," because that's my catchphrase. Anyway, different story, different thing. Anyway, but experiences. So this one is related to Pat, and I know the person I bought this for isn't watching. Pat puts on is part of a group called Cherry Capital Comic Con in Traverse City, Michigan. The last 2 years I've had to go by myself because my friend who normally goes with me hasn't been able to afford to pay their mortgage and go to the convention. So this year I just booked it. Thank you, Rob. Pat and Rob both Cherry Capital Comic Con, and they both get the joke green body paint. Anyway,
there we go.
But no, I just booked it. And so my friend won't have to pay any money to go to their convention this year. Hotel room paid for. Like, passes will be taken care of. Like, giving my friend an experience is a good present. And if you go with them, present for you too. So in the past, we've done things like C2E2 badges as Christmas present. Like, everybody bought somebody else's C2E2 badge. We've done things like weekend axe throwing tournaments where we just rent a cabin in the woods and go to an axe throwing place. You know, stuff like that where you get to have these experiences and do things. And again, you have something you can put under the tree because you can wrap it up. But it's not something that, you know, again, is going to be the same. You've been to one Comic-Con, great, but let's go to that same Comic-Con again this year with different guests and different people and do different things.
Yeah.
Try different restaurants. So experiences are always good.
No, Kyle, I'm so glad that this was on your list because this was my closing suggestion because the most meaningful nerd or comic related gift I ever received, and it was a really cool one because it's from my parents who are not generally like, they support me and they understand what I like and all that stuff, but they don't really know how to interact with it. One of the coolest gifts they ever got me was a pass to a comic book convention, so a 3-day pass, and I was really touched by that. It literally brought me to tears because I didn't expect that gesture, because it just meant so much. And it was like, oh, you guys, you get it. Like, you get something that I, at the time in my life where I was at, this was years ago, I couldn't have afforded to go on my own and go there and have fun. Like, I could buy some stuff or whatever, but I couldn't afford to do both. And they got me like a 3-day pass, and I was able to go get a couple autographs from celebrities, which isn't something I do now, but at the time it was kind of fun.
Right.
And it meant a lot to me, and it was a really great gift. So yeah, the experience is absolutely, like, talk about the best gift card you get somebody.
Right. So I have some honorable mentions. We'll go really fast. Are you ready?
Yeah, sure.
A donation has been made in your name to the Human Fund. And while I'm making a Seinfeld joke, what I mean is there are great charitable organizations in the comic book community that you could support on behalf of your friend as a gift, on behalf of your person. So Hero Initiative, the Siegel and Schuster Foundation. Bink is a great one.
Mission 22.
Mission 22. There's a ton of
Yeah.
killer charitable organizations that could really do a lot with the little bit of money you were going to spend on your friend. And you say to your friend, I didn't know what to get you. So rather than buying you a present, this is where they're going to look at you funny. I gave $50 to Hero Initiative to support those artists that you like.
Yeah.
I gave $100 to Mission 22 to support veterans through comic books.
Yep.
Right. Whatever. They might be disappointed that you didn't get them something, but if your friends will likely understand what you're doing.
Yeah.
Right. Will likely be down for that.
On top of that, like there are people out there that, and I think we all have these people in our lives. If you buy a Christmas present for people that they already have everything, or they buy themselves everything they want. And I don't mean that like in a negative way, but maybe they're well-to-do, or they just have that kind of income, and you're really struggling to think of something that, maybe the experience is nice. Maybe you get them something you made yourself. Maybe you draw them something. Those are all cool things. But hey, maybe you're kind of running low on ideas, and doing the charitable donation in their name for a cause that was going to impact them. That can be a very awesome, unique thing to do. Right.
One of the other things I'm honorable mention is arts and crafts.
There you go.
Every year we would sell a lot of $1 comics around this time of certain characters, because people were buying them and like decoupaging them onto a coffee table to give a friend.
Yeah.
Or whatever, right? Making them something that they don't know exactly what they want, but they know they're into comics. So here's a picture frame that I made with a bunch of comic panels around it, or whatever.
Yeah.
So arts and crafts are always good, because even if they're not exactly right, it shows the energy you put into it.
Yeah.
Right. And then my last thing, if you wanted to buy me a Christmas present, you could super chat the experience. No, I'm kidding. One of the things that I always appreciate, and it's an honorable mention, huh?
I was telling the audience, you can still do it though.
You totally can, but you could hit subscribe, you could like, you could super chat, you could donate to the experience, anything. But one of the things that I always appreciated from my family, who didn't always understand my collection hobby, because we were traditionally comic book collectors. They didn't understand art, right? They didn't understand that kind of stuff. Is to learn about what you're into, right? You don't have to spend any money to go on the internet and read up on artists and learn about what your friends are into, so you can have a conversation with them.
Yeah.
About it. Like, it's not really a gift so much as it is being a good friend, but the holidays are tough for a lot of people in a lot of ways. So being able to say, hey, I couldn't really afford to get you a Christmas present this year. I had a lot of stuff, but I wanted to ask you, I know you're a big Sandman fan. Would you tell me about Sandman? I went online and I read a little bit about Sandman. Would you, being able to have that conversation and going to dinner, going to lunch, having coffee, and just letting your friends info dump on you is as great a gift as there can be, right? A distraction from the hustle and bustle of the holiday to talk about something you're passionate about while drinking coffee or eating a Big Mac.
That's kind of like the nerd friend version of the one free back rub coupon present or something like that, right? Like one free foot massage that like kids would give their parents or significant others or something like that. Sometimes it's kind of like the hey, this is something we can do, or maybe right. You agree to go to that comic book movie they wanted to watch or something.
Right. It sort of falls into that experiences category, yeah. Right? But just showing an interest is a huge gift. Hey,
Sean.
Rob, I will as soon as my Gemini mailer gets here, buddy. I swear to God. I know where it's at. Rob wants a very specific Spider-Man story that I've owed him for 3.5 years. Anyway, but no, it's this idea of, right, go to see Aquaman or whatever, even if you don't like Jason Momoa.
How dare you?
I don't like Jason Momoa.
How dare you?
He's less good Dwayne the Rock Johnson.
He's more better The Rock.
No, he's less good because he's dating my dream. He's married to my dream girl. Anyway, we're gonna move on from that statement. But no, like I said, just it all goes back to the experience. Show an interest. Show that you care. And remember, the holidays suck for a lot of people. Yeah. So if you can show them in a way where you're doing your comic book thing, even if you're not into comic book things, yeah, that's a huge help. So,
and then here's my last one. This is the super advanced tip. This is you are a comic book fan. You know how the business works. You're just as much of a collector, maybe even more so than they are. And you want to get them something super special and probably a little nicer and more expensive. Maybe they're somebody that did something special for you, or you just have that kind of relationship with that person. If you like know an artist they like that's still with us, you could go out and attempt to commission that artist for them and say, hey, I'd like to get on your list for a commission, and go out there and, let's say it's Kyle Hotz or something like that, right? Like go get on their commission list and get them, that Jason Momoa as Lobo art or something like that. That would be fantastic.
Well, so I actually did that for my business partner this year.
That's cool. That's awesome, man. See, that's a really cool gift. And that's one of the things where it's like, it doesn't matter, like maybe you don't know exactly which book they want in their collection, even though you kind of know the books, maybe because you don't know, like, I don't know what grade they're going to want and like all that kind of stuff, or, which version of that particular comic, or there's all these kinds of specifics that come up, but maybe you're like, well, I know they're just going to buy themselves that comic book at some point anyway. I want to get them something that isn't a comic book. How about a one-of-a-kind original piece of art? That is something that is going to be very special for that person. And the same thing goes for, a page from that artist if they're no longer with us, or a sketch that they've done that you can find on a comic art site or something like that, or in the community. But still, the suggestion stands. That's the advanced level for me suggestion. So
yeah, my business partner is totally getting something that was drawn by a Ramita.
Wow. Damn, that's a cool gift, man.
Mm-hmm.
Very cool.
What's hysterical is that neither of us know what it is.
Was it sort of like a mystery commission kind of thing?
No, it was a commission, and I'm like, hey, just draw whatever you want.
Oh, okay.
Don't really care.
Well, we know which Ramita it is then.
It's true.
Yeah. Unless you've
John Ramita the third.
Yeah, special technology that I don't have.
Right. No, Mrs. Ramita drew it.
Talk about one of a kind.
Yeah, no, I'm kidding. No, but it's true. So, Bronze, what are we talking about next week on the show?
Well, we're doing the thing that is required every time you ask me that question, which is that you have to buy me 20 seconds so that I can go to my show doc and find out.
I absolutely will. If you have a suggestion of a thing you would like us to talk about, we are planning further out in advance than we used to did. So Jay has put the link in the comments. If you got a suggestion, go to bit.ly/Devil's Advocates right there. You should be able to click on that link and give us your suggestions. Tell us what you want us to talk about, and we will talk about it if it makes sense.
Absolutely. And in fact, next week on December 18th at 7 p.m. Pacific or 10 p.m. Eastern, you can catch us talking about a topic that we're calling the LCS Health Checklist. And this is sort of a dive into what your LCS looks like by talking about two people I've experienced going into LCSs and seeing them and being friends with the owners of those LCSs and knowing, kind of some behind the scenes stuff. Kyle has owned an LCS. He knows what's up there. Definitely a lot of close industry contacts. We'll tell you kind of things that you should want to look out for, things that you want to see as both positive and negative. And if you have any suggestions for those, on addition to just the topics, but if you actually have some specific things about LCSs you want us to talk about, go ahead and drop us a comment on this video, especially if you're watching on the rewind or if you're watching live in a couple minutes. Go ahead and drop a comment so we can add that comment to the conversation that we talk about next week.
Absolutely. And then next week you'll be able to call in and talk about these things too. We didn't do call-ins today because it's like, what are you going to do to call in and tell me I'm wrong? You don't want small appliances?
I hate candy.
Right. I hate candy. I don't believe you. But no, it's really the talk next week, at least from my opinion, is we're seeing a lot of posts from a lot of stores that are out there struggling right now.
Yeah.
Great store in California just announced that they may have to shut down. One of my LCSs is talking about having to shut down.
Yeah.
There are a lot of stores in a lot of trouble. And if we can help you to see the writing on the wall with that, we can give you some suggestions on how to help.
Exactly.
But mainly we can help you recognize that trouble may be coming before the trouble comes. That's our goal.
Yep.
So,
all in the name of positivity and supporting the LCS. None of it to be, negative Nancy's out there.
Absolutely. Because again, everything we're going to talk about, we're going to have a way to help when the store is in that situation.
Absolutely.
Spoiler, a lot of it is go spend money.
It seems to cure all ills.
Really does. So, for Jay, who's in the background going, Kyle, shut up. I have to go move. This show has gone way longer than it was supposed to go. For Dan, who's waiting for me to edit the news for tomorrow here on The Experience. Dan's new format. Tomorrow, 7 o'clock Eastern, I will have read a bunch of comic books, and so will Miss Jen. And we'll be doing Mint to Skim It, followed by Mint Hunter. Then on Wednesday, remember, no Dan Wickline show on Wednesday. But Wednesday, you'll have Comic Collectibles. Then you'll have Triple T with Chuck Pino, our trivia game show. Then you have 360 Comics doing a live sale. And then you have Kicking It with Henri, Honest Henri from Chicago. We'll be back. That is not entirely true, Frog Brawler, and we can talk about that later. Honestly, then Thursday, Dan is back with the big show. It's a really big shoe on Thursday where Dan will be discussing Maxwell Lord. Deep dive into Maxwell Lord and why he's a way better villain than Lex Luthor. And following the Dan show, you'll have What's in the Box with Miss Jen, the comic book Beardies, and then Sketch Up with Mel and Mog. Friday, Nick will be back with the art show at Friday Night Live. Saturday is our day of rest, although we will have some content coming out on Saturday, so be on the lookout for that. Sunday, Fat Jax is back. And then next Monday, Talking Shop, Comic Collectibles, Devil's Advocates. We will probably be taking Christmas off.
Yeah.
Unless we both decide we want to escape our families.
No.
Ron's likes his family. I may be here. So
there you go.
we will see everybody next time. I've been stretching to get this to an hour and a half, and I've done that now. So we will see everybody next time here on Devil's Advocates.
Have a good night.
Join the party. Head over to our link tree to find all the links for everywhere the experience is all the time.